Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Kilter X-mas Film Fest. This is Michael Conway.
Yes.
And C.K. McFarland. Somebody has a fan club here. And Jason Williams. Who wants to start?
What's funny, CK?
What's funny? Y'all are funny.
To me, comedy is when it's happening to somebody else. It's just when it's happening to somebody else. Somebody came by the house and said, we have these tapes of a couple of drunks fighting, and it's kind of funny, and you should listen to it. And so we started, and these tapes were left in an abandoned house in San Antonio, so we started listening to them. And it would come on for a while, and they'd be drunk, and then it'd come on again, and they'd be sober, and then it would come on. It became this big mystery. Who are these people? What is this? And we listened to them for weeks and weeks.
It's called My Day, wasn't it?
My Day, yes, My Day. That's right. Anyway, we found out that these were a couple of people who had met in rehab and fallen in love. And they moved out together, and their rehab counselor had told them to listen to themselves messed up and listen to themselves sober. So they used this as a weapon. When one was sober and the other was drunk, then the sober one would turn it on. And one night, Geraldine, who was the female part of this act, she had left with the car and come back without it. And and she was real messed up. She came in, and Eldon turned on the tape, and they start fighting, and it's where that's where I got Dee Dee Snavely's profanity, where she would. Please don't be offended by this, but you will be. Dee Dee, a character I play in Tuna, always says "God damn it," but she drags it out. She goes, "God damn it." Well, I got that off this tape because they were fighting, and Geraldine has gone off with the car. She's come back without it. And he said, "Where's the car?" She says, "It's at a bar." He said, "Well, how did you get home?" "A nice man brought me." And they get into this fight, and it just gets worse. And he tells her, he says, "Why don't you get off your pity pot?" "Well, why don't you? You got to have a goddamn Budweiser before you can think." She said, "God damn it, does that Budweiser mean more to you than me?" "Apparently so." And she said, "But be that as it may, why don't you get me a cigarette?" And he says, "They're in the car."
Hi, you guys. My name is Michael Conway. I've been in awe of these guys for a really long time. So I'll tell you a funny story about what I think is funny. I lived in Los Angeles for about 20 years, and I'm a Texan, born and raised in Houston, and sorry. It was hard enough to go through it. And I moved to California, and I lived there for 20 years and everything. And I went to the Westwood Playhouse one night in Los Angeles, and I watched these guys do Tuna. And the truth of every single thing that they said brought me home, made me laugh, made me feel what it was like to be a Texan, what it was like to be human. You know, when Dee Dee said, "God," everybody in the audience was going, trying to finish it. It is, in her singing her Christmas songs, Vera Carp, "Don't touch the baby Jesus, he's lit from within." Just these things just kill me. These things, just the truth of those things just kill me. And so, that's, in a lot of ways, I think that's one of the things. I'm sort of a little different. I was on a show called Seinfeld. And I was the first villain on that show. And I can tell you a really interesting story about it. Michael Richards took me to lunch the first day, and I was humiliated. I thought I was going to get fired. The guest star the week before, they had fired him in the middle of the week, and and things weren't going well. I just done a scene with Jerry, and Jerry went like this, and he goes like this afterwards. He goes, And I thought, dear God, I just got fired. Jerry just fired me. Because I was trying to be funny. And everybody is such, they're all such brown nosers on that set. They were all like, every time Jerry would laugh, they would all go, ha! And then I'd say my joke, and they'd go, And then Jerry makes this face. I think I'm dead. I'm gone. I'm going to be gone. So, and Michael Richards goes, hey, you, come here. And I go, okay. And he goes, and he takes me to lunch. Now, you got to remember, when I did Seinfeld, it was the second season, which was the first full season of Seinfeld. And nobody knew, they were going to threaten to cut it off the air because they said, I don't want a show about nothing, I want a show about something. So Larry David got mad, he walks off. He says, I'm not writing the show. Apparently they don't want me to write the show. So they got Larry Charles to come in and write the show. It was about a show about something. So they had the birth of the villain. And I was a villain. I came in and stole a statue from Jerry, and I cleaned his apartment and stole it, and then Kramer beats me up at the end. Kramer takes me to lunch, and he goes, do you think this show's funny? And I said, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I think it's funny. I mean, Jason Alexander's got a certain, he goes, no, we're all different. Jerry's really wordy and thinky, he's thinky. You and I, we do physical comedy. And he goes, I'm gonna beat the hell out of you. And because at the end of the show, he beats me up. And I said, go for it. And I looked in the DVD, if you ever see the DVD of this happened this season, Michael Richards attributes the finding of the Kramer character on the scene that he and I did, and he beats the living snot out of me, and he breaks the wall that he throws me on. I think that comedy is bravery, and I think that it's scary and it's unpredictable. It's opposites together. You don't know what it is. There's styles of comedy are changing. They do change, but the truth never does.
Well, everybody has their different approaches, and there's certainly lots of different styles depending on the evolution from the beginning of time. And well, I don't know what the caveman did for humor, but or the Greeks, anyway. But my whole, I mean, I teach and I write and I act, but my whole thing, and some of you know this, is that we're all here to inspire and be inspired. And if you're going to be an actor, a comedian, or a writer, or whatever, you want to know that you have an effect in the world. And that in order to move people, you have to move yourself. And so many times people play it safe and they don't move very far. But what I think is really genius, and I know this because I read it in Time magazine, is to take something from that end of the universe and something from that end of the universe that are completely so far apart you would never think they would intersect. But if they do, there's a moment of truth, always. And when you take something from that end and let them meet, that is a huge journey. That creates a lot of movement, a lot of surprise, a lot of unpredictability. And there's always truth there. So many of the things that I work with, I bring things together. They say there's no new creativity anymore. I completely beg to disagree. Because if you take things from outer space and let them meet, people are blown away by that meeting. And so I try to always put all my work in that moment. And it's really, some of you know that film, The Full Monty. That was just a little independent film. It was nominated for an Oscar, Best Picture, because it had these old steel workers from the north of England becoming Chippendale strippers. That was such a huge journey that it totally charmed people. They weren't used to being charmed that much. We have little jokes that are really kind of close and fun, and they turn. But sometimes I think if we put, and he mentioned opposites, if we put opposites into the work, and it really will move an audience in great ways. And also, I like to trick them. I like to get them going in one direction and make them think that that's where I'm going, and oh yeah, I know where this is going, and then it doesn't go there. Oh, and one other thing. I was in a group called the Cow Patties, and we toured for years, and we opened for the Smothers Brothers. And we had crammed our whole show with every single joke as fast as they could come. Joke, 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 joke. Well, the Smothers Brothers are like, it's like a fine wine. You have to let your comedy breathe. And most of you will remember the Smothers Brothers, that sometimes they didn't say anything for a while. They just kind of tried not to look at each other. That was funny. So for every action, I think in comedy there has to be a reaction to it in some form or fashion. And the fact that they tried not to react to one another in and of itself let their comedy breathe. And it was funny when the reaction finally did come.
What you were saying about the opposites, about something from one end of the world and something from the other, reminded me of this crazy friend I have that I went to grade school with. And to show you the personality of this woman, she went to college at Tech, she studied government, she moved to Washington, she got out of college in 3 years, so she's barely 21, she gets to Washington, D.C. She moves into the YWCA, starts looking for work, and 3 months later she's a personal assistant to Henry Kissinger. And this is when he was Secretary of State and Nixon was climbing the walls. So she was a formidable character. And she always wanted to do these kind of adventure trips. But with her, you needed the adventure, but you also had to have a real great place to stay. And I had to have the other stuff. There had to be the wine list. There had to be all of that. So we ended up in Patagonia with a bunch of crazy people, the bottom of the world. And I'd been through a lot of stuff, and I was really needing to see the glaciers and to climb the mountains and to sweat and to work it out and to see the Southern Cross. And so I'm on this spiritual thing. I'm just dying to get there. And we had this like 8-hour climb up this mountain, and it was really rough. And some of the people in our group were elderly, and we're egging them on and egging them on. And Jan keeps talking about, boy, when we get home tonight, that wine list is going to be amazing. That wine list is going to be something. You know, this is South America. They've got great wines, and we're just sweating up this mountain. And about the last 100 yards of this climb were across very rough boulders. There was no more vegetation. You were above the tree line, and it was hot. And the woman in front of me was CEO for Pillsbury, and wonderful, incredible lady. And she's about 20, 25 yards ahead of me, and Jan is farther down the hill. And when the woman ahead of me got to the top, she just lets out this scream, just this orgasmic, oh my God. And so I'm like, oh my God, it's got to be beautiful. I get to the top, and we're looking down into this crater, this volcanic crater with this green lake with ice floating in it, and water is pouring down off of these sheer cliffs, and you've got the Patagonian sky. You're at the bottom of the world in the middle of their summer. And I just started crying, and I reached over and I grabbed Ann, and she's holding me, and we're just looking into this beautiful sight that, you know, I'll never see this again. And we're crying, we're just weeping, and in the back of my mind I'm thinking, where's Jan? Where's Jan? And then I hear this voice behind me say, you know, that manicure held up all the way up that mountain. If you want a good manicure, you gotta go to New York. And we're sorry. Well, we've stared God in the eye, her manicure held up, we're all okay.
Oh my God. So, yeah, I mean, probably, God, that's pretty great. See, they're the opposites. I was studying with a man named Michael Shurtleff who really, really talked about opposites a lot, putting them close together. You know, big opposites in life, big profound opposites, small opposites. The comedy for the second half of the last quarter of the century was really dominated, I think, a lot by a style of theater games. Does everybody know improv games? Mm-hmm. Improv games, never deny, never ask questions. It's the Groundlings. I studied the Groundlings, and a lot of people that came out of comedy in the last quarter of the century was dominated by that thing, because truth came out of it, and you didn't know, and it was scary, and opposites would be thrown in. It'd be like somebody would say, "Sorry about your leg missing," and suddenly you were without a leg, and you had to keep walking, and you had to go, "Yes, that's right. and you would have to continue it. The consequences and the sort of the danger of that became sort of thrilling, and that's really sort of like a lot of times that was a quick recipe for comedy.
Well, you can always cheat and fall back on different styles. I always kind of got stuck in restoration comedy.
Yeah.
You know, it's where someone would say something, the comedy of manners, and someone would say something off color, and then boom, boom, boom. All the fans would boom, 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 boom come out, and everybody go, and everybody do this simultaneously, and then boom, boom, boom. They'd all shut.
I tell you who I think was genuinely funny was Catherine O'Hara. Catherine O'Hara. I worked with Catherine O'Hara once, and I couldn't keep a straight face. And we were doing Temple Grandin in this town. We were shooting Temple Grandin in Bastrop, and I would be like, because I'd see her doing all that Second City stuff, and she killed me. So I think, and Gilda Radner. So I go for Gilda Radner, and then Lucille Ball, another person who wasn't funny. So
wasn't happy.
Yeah. Tough, man. She was
tough.
Yeah, I went to a question and answer with her. Ooh.
Lucille Ball?
Lucille Ball, man. She walked like a man. She was 70-something years old. She was just like, she strode across that stage. Somebody asked her about Desi Arnaz, and she goes, "We were getting a divorce. Are you happy?" Next question. And it was just like, it was like everybody it was a huge auditorium, man. She wasn't funny, but she was a technician. Just unbelievable, knew how to do that. If you watch those things, they're just so crisp and so clean. You watch Vita Vita Vegemin, it's her trying to maintain her dignity, and you know her dreams. And I tell you what it is. I tell you one of the things that I think, when I watch really good comedians work, it's the commitment of what they want. It's what they want. They have to die to get it. And it's like watching, it's what the engine that moves them. And and when you watch Lucille Ball do that, you know how much she wants to be famous. You know how much she wants to be noticed. And this may be her big chance, and she gets loaded, and she's just trying to maintain her dignity through it. And it's one of the funniest damn things I've ever seen.
I really love it when there's a comic scene where you got two people in pain at the same time.
Yeah.
Competition?
Or they're having a mutual pain. There is a wonderful film. Have you ever seen Mambo Italiano, about being gay and Italian, and how the family is not holding up well at all? And there are Paul Sorvino is in it. Paul Sorvino plays the father, and this wonderful French-Canadian actress plays the mother. And they have a scene where their son is gay, and he broke up with his former boyfriend, who is the son of lifelong neighbors of theirs. Anyway, this other guy's getting married, and his mother has invited them to the wedding, and they have the wedding invitation. And they're plotting about how to destroy this wedding. and it's classic. It's like something out of Moliere. We'll do this, and then we'll do this, and we'll do this. And she'll go, "You can't do that. They're going to think this." "Okay, well, we'll do this, and we'll do this, and we'll do this." "You can't do that because they're going to think we're this." "Oh, God, okay, we'll do this." And it just keeps going. Finally, he says, "It's making me tired." But it is one of the most delightful scenes. And when you watch it, you realize this has been going on forever.
Yeah.
This is a classic. This is a classic comic scene that has been going on since people have been writing comedy. And I love to see something like that injected into contemporary theater, or a contemporary film. So I highly recommend that movie. It is very funny, very funny.
But I have a whole lot of pain. And I would get up there and create characters that came from those kinds of places, and people would laugh. And to sit there and to heal, just to sit there when they're laughing, and all you have to do is just simply drop the next little thing out there, and you're going to keep them going. And, my high school drama teacher said, "Sit down, you're not funny." And I didn't think I was for many, many years. And I had to get a lot older before I could really, really, truly start being funny and letting all that go. But just to know that something that's growing out of something in you, and you just put it out there really fragilely, and you're not even sure, but it's your truth, just like and everybody in here said that too, and y'all all know this. It's coming from your truth and your pain. But you use it to transmute your life instead of being a victim to it. And when people are laughing at that and standing on that stage and hearing that, it gives you a gift that helps to heal those long ago wounds.
Question, anybody?
I just want to say two things Bob Hope and Red Skelton said that have always just stuck in my head. They're like one-liners. Red Skelton, who I believe was a very unhappy person,
Mhm.
he said, "Don't take life too seriously. You're not going to get out of it alive." And Bob Hope, when he was dying, his wife, I heard, asked him where he wanted to be buried. And he said, "Surprise me."
I love that Red Skelton always cracked himself up and he kind of had a laugh in the middle of that. It just endeared me because there was this duality there of him giving what he gave and he also to be affected by it. So I thought that was charming.
Well, it allows us to laugh. It allows us to validate our own experiences. And it allows us to heal. It's what you were saying earlier. When someone comes up with something like that, and you get to share, you know, I remember Bill Cosby doing the routine where he and his brother in the bedroom, and his brother said, "Well, I'm going to touch your hand." So, "Well, I'm going to touch your arm." So, "I'm going to touch your shoulder." So, "I'm going to touch your chest." So, "I'm going to touch your eye." And then they all get beaten at that point, you know, and you think, I have been there. I've been there. And you just see the build, you know. So, yeah, Cosby's incredible.
Can you make a few comments on what you guys saw today?
I love this. The scientist. The scientist was my favorite character explaining the bubble around Santa Claus. I thought that was just a wonderful performance, and I really loved the ninja and the guy with the glasses. You know, just had that little bit, but it totally made sense. You know, yeah.
Like when I used to write a script, I'd maybe write 2 or 3 or 4 scenes, and then there would be this kick-ass scene. And I'd throw everything away prior to that and kind of start from there. And so it's always to don't deny your gifts. These are being given to you. Take them. Put them on a napkin. Then don't just lock that one in. Wait for it to open up further for you, because many, many times they will. And you might try them out a little bit here and there. But keep exploring and keep opening up veins of gold. And much more will be given. Sometimes this guy, it just pours. But sometimes I have to keep going back and allowing myself. Natalie Goldberg, who writes about writing, and she's from Taos, and her first book was Writing Down the Bones. Her second one was Wild Mind, and she would say that if there's a dot on the wall, that's usually where we go, to that dot on the wall. But this whole room is your creativity, so you have to force yourself to throw yourself away from this dot out there and see where you land. So a lot of what I do, plus bringing opposites in, I'm always looking for opposites. And when they land, and when I land out there somewhere different than this dot, it's just pouring through me, and that's kind of my process.
Do you find it difficult, the two of you, to throw stuff away, to let go of that perfect line?
Not after it dies in front of an audience.
That's
Well,
what I was
yeah,
waiting
exactly.
to hear. That's what I was waiting to hear. How many times does it have to die before?
Before you throw it away?
See, I will sometimes remember the moment I wrote something. I thought, that's the funniest damn thing that's ever come out of my mouth. And then you'll throw it out there and nothing. Just nothing. It's the South Pacific on a calm day. And then you say, well, I just didn't quite give it that, because I laughed for 10 minutes the first, and you do it again. And then when I really know to let it go is when you get one person go, you go, okay, it's out of here. And you realize I'm the only person that got that joke, and it was a good joke, but I'm the only one that got it. Be satisfied with that. Quit flogging this mule. Let the line go. Yeah.
And there's another way of throwing things away, and I remember somebody writing about Jason when you were doing Truman. There was this beautiful, and I talk about it a lot in class, that some of the most beautiful, important moments, you would kind of toss them like sprinkling rose petals on a pond or something. That he would take a moment, and you know, there are $100 moments and there are dollar moments. And we can't play all the $100 moments. And sometimes the most beautiful one, you just want to drop it like little rose petals on a pond. And I never forgot that and the beauty of you being able to not just get rid of something, but to, because sometimes it's more powerful when it's that way.
And I'll tell you, I actually had the privilege of actually seeing Jason's show. If you've ever seen his one-man show, it's really wonderful. And I remember, and I think it was almost 10 years ago that I saw this thing and everything, but the simplicity and the sweetness of the last line. And I can remember your face in it. And so that was.
Well, thank you.
But just even here today, y'all are creating your work. And I commend you all for that and for putting on this beautiful little festival. And so everybody stand up, be willing to stand up at the highest place in yourself, be seen from your heart, and create with all your might.
I'm Hank Nations, board member with Upstart. I want to thank everyone for attending this year's Off-Kilter Christmas Film Fest. It was a wonderful success, and we're so happy that everyone enjoyed it, and we are looking forward to having a repeat performance next year. Thank you.